What is going on, everybody? Back with another stream with Props.Cash and my good friend Kyle Just Bets at Kyle Just Bets on X. We have a loaded MLB slate today. We have a full 15-game slate, some fun matchups, some good prices, and some new series, which is always a good time when you have teams facing off for the first game in a series. Kyle, we could talk about this in more detail when we start analyzing some games, but if you ask me, that is always a spot to find some like hidden value, maybe more like the game line market than the prop market, because you have teams that are going against each other for the first time that, if it's not the first time that season, just for a new series, whole new dynamic. But before we get into all that, Kyle, what's going on? How are you doing?
Doing good, man. Yeah. Crazy, massive baseball slate today. It's Friday, so vibes are up here. Thank God. But yeah, crazy, massive baseball slate. Like you said, some really interesting matchups today. I'm excited for it, man. I'm excited to dig in, see what's going on. Yesterday was a very small slate, but still interesting as well. So it's nice to kind of loop back in and get a nice hefty baseball slate. Unfortunately, and I don't know why MLB does this, but all the games start at night. I feel like we used to have more afternoon games, like more often, but we're getting night games way more often now. And maybe that's just something MLB has done. Maybe I've just haven't paid attention enough. They've done it for a while. I don't know, but I wish we had some afternoon baseball to bet on, but we'll have to wait till tonight. It gives us some time to lab and research and do some stuff with Props.Cash.
Absolutely. It is criminal that there's not even like a 2 p.m. Wrigley game or something going on. Baseball Savants pulling up there, but of course, going back to Props.Cash to use for our research. If you guys want to research with Kyle and I, if you use promo code BetSmart, you get 30% off your first month of Props.Cash. Just go to props.cash.com and you can sign up for a subscription there. And also you can check out betsmart.co for more sports betting tool needs. But Kyle, we've done our promos. We got into it. Let's start talking some ball. Again, annoying that there's no day game, but based on the scheduling, your Mets are the first team rotation number style today. The Mets right now are minus 136 on the road in Pittsburgh. We have a pitching matchup between Mitch Keller and lefty David Peterson. Total sitting 8. Don't know if you got a chance to dive into this one particularly, Kyle, but you are the resident Met fan on the stream. So talk to me about this Keller-Peterson matchup, if there's anything that caught your eye so far, and we can, of course, dive right into both of them.
Yeah, I'm pulling up some stats as we're talking about it. It's an interesting matchup. I mean, the Mets are declining pretty bad. I mean, heartbreaking yesterday, man, to see Griffin Canning probably rupture his Achilles like he did, because their pitching staff has just been getting banged up, and that's really the core of this team right now. Their offense has been, I think, expectations lower than or higher than what that offense has been putting out. So massive blow to them. They get David Peterson today, who's been solid. Obviously, he's a lefty, and I think the trend for the past few years has kind of been lefties against Pittsburgh. You always take them. Whether that stands true today or not, we'll see. I'm kind of interested if you scroll up just to see Peterson's recent strikeout numbers. I haven't looked too much into this, but yeah, 4-3. He had a couple good games there against the Dodgers and Nationals, which are tough. So he's been up and down. So we'll see. I mean, there wasn't anything crazy standing out to me in this game. I think Mitch Keller honestly probably goes under his K line today, even though the Mets have been striking out more as of late. Keller just hasn't had that elite stuff. He's been getting banged up, so this could be a spot, I think, to fade him, especially with a 4.5 line. I think you're getting solid value there, especially when the Mets they need to turn things around, and they're getting a nice matchup against the Pirates where they could probably hit them around pretty good. So
absolutely. And minus 132 from Props.Cash's line shopping, they have the odds, is the best price at any sports book for Mitch Keller under 4.5 strikeouts, minus 132 on FanDuel. And as you can see right here, the Mets strikeout rates against right-handed pitching this year, very low. 28% from Beatty, who is, of course, kind of been struggling all year long or his whole career. Doug's still a young player, so we'll give him the benefit of the doubt, but he's only one with like a glaring strikeout rate. Even this Tyrone Taylor, 23.2, that's pretty normal. But I actually, when you were talking about Peterson, of course, I was choosing props.cash, and this is just like baseball 101, and it's something that Jake and I spoke about on Wednesday. You see that you had 6 Ks against Washington and the Dodgers, and pretty well pitched starts. He didn't allow a single run against Washington, but as you see at the quality of contact, I'll zoom in a little. Hopefully, you guys see a little bit better. 10 hard hit balls against Washington and 10 hard hit balls against the Dodgers, and those are games where he pitched relatively well, especially considering against LA, 7 innings, yes, 7 hits, but they were clearly seeing the ball well in the game. They end up losing in a close one. And then these games where he has lower K numbers against Atlanta and against Philly, only 6 hard hit balls and only 5 hard hit balls. So that is literally baseball in a nutshell, where you can have a game where you're getting hit hard, but if it's getting hit right to people, you might see some success overall when it comes to strikeouts and hits allowed. He's always been allowing a decent amount of hits. Let's go to earned runs. Yeah, like against Philly, only 6 hard hit balls, but he has 5 earned. So that's just a quality of contact as well as computer's bugging. Sorry. Back to props.cash. Quality of contact was high in those games, or in other games, just like not that high. But baseball is a game where if you're hitting the ball with runners in scoring position, and that's when you're coming through for your team, that's always going to be more valuable for the long run than a hard hit fly out with nobody on. Pitchers in the opposing teams, they don't care about a solo home run. That's if you hit one out of the park and that's 1 run, they'll live with that any day of the week.
Yeah, I mean, so I was on Peterson in that last game. I think it was when he played Philly. Disappointing because I took his outs. I think it's 17.5, and he got pretty much worked. He was cruising through those first few innings, and then the Phillies ended up getting to him. So he got pulled short, and I thought it was a good spot for him because, look at that. He goes 6 innings. He's gone into the 7th multiple times. He's like an innings eater for this Mets team.
Mm-hmm.
And this is a spot where I see it's minus 160 for 17.5 outs, which I think is probably pretty fair considering Griffin Canning just went down, and this Mets team is just like scrambling for pitching right now. Their bullpen is getting a ton of work lately. They're lucky because they have a lot of long relief guys that can go 3-4 innings, but they're at a point right now where they're waiting for what's his name? Montas came back.
Mm-hmm.
They're waiting for one of their other guys to came back. His name is blank in my head right now. Manaea. Yep. And yeah, so they're throwing out Paul Blackburn right now. Griffin Canning's down, obviously. Senga's down, obviously. So you're scrambling to find pitchers to get you long outings here. Luckily they get out of this, part of the season where they've just faced the Braves in 2 series and then the Phillies in another series, division rivals, tough matchups. Now you're going on the road against Pittsburgh, where I think you have a little bit more leeway. They struggle against left-handed pitching, so I think you see a nice outing Peterson today for sure. I get why that's pretty juiced over, but if you parlay that with something, I think you get pretty nice odds. I think he's pretty much a lock to go 6, especially with the Mets. They're playing multiple games in a row right now. Most of the league had the day off yesterday. They did not. So they're coming into this game just hoping David Peterson can give them a long stretch here.
Yeah, and the Pirates, like we've talked about, are like, if anybody has seen all season long, they are one of the worst offenses in baseball, especially against left-handed pitching. These batting average numbers are embarrassingly low. Strikeout numbers not crazy high. Like Brian Hayes and Nick Gonzalez have been lower K rate guys. Seeing even Brian Reynolds at 35.2%. That's not common for Reynolds, who's a very good hitter, but like IKF, obviously not like a massive asset or anything like that at the bottom of the order, but at least he limits strikeouts. But I think it is like a good spot for Pearson. If you're going, pitching 18 plus outs, obviously being able to get 5 of those from strikeouts makes it easier. I know he's somebody who does eat innings that we talked about, and his max is 7 against Pittsburgh, which he had earlier this year. But I'm not putting too much stock into that. If you're a Prize Picks better, showing EV here because the market is sitting at 157. Of course, Prize Picks with their like fixed payouts, that is a spot where there's positive expected value showing from the Pinnacle Sportsbook on props.cash, or another great feature, props.cash. So if you're like Kyle mentioned, looking to parlay or are just a DFS player with Prize Picks. This was like a great square.
Yeah, the only thing that scares me about his case today, well, I think he has a good shot at getting 5. I was looking this morning, and I don't know if it's changed yet, but the Pirates, I think, are going to roll out probably like 7 right-handed hitters tonight. Yeah, they're stacking righties against Peterson here, and that's mainly because I'm just looking over Peterson's last few games. He has a 14% K percentage against right-handed hitters over his last 5. Meanwhile, against left-handed hitters, it's up to 30%. So that's where he's seeing the bulk of his strikeouts. And obviously, the Pirates are looking into this. They see that. They're going to stack righties against him to try to limit that damage as much as they can. So that's the only thing that scares me a little bit about his strikeouts. I think he might fall more into like some ground balls, fly balls today, trying to get some quick outs. Pirates are probably going to make some good contact, but 5 strikeouts for him, I mean, it seems pretty low considering what he's done. I see 5.5 on some books too, so they think he's pretty much a lock for 5, I'd say.
Yeah, absolutely. And right here, expected value for Prize Picks. So like we said earlier, if you're DFSing or you're looking for a parlay piece, especially over at Prize Picks with the fixed payouts, that looks like a great square to incorporate. So don't have much there else to say. I think it's just interesting how this game opened at certain sports books as high as like the Mets minus 160 is now down to minus 130, aka like the early money has rolled in on Pittsburgh. So maybe they're seeing something as well. But I personally am not seeing anything that they're seeing. But we can keep on cruising here. Athletics Yankees with Mitch Spence, Will Warren. I personally don't have anything here, Kyle. If you have anything, we can stop on this one. But the next game, Tampa Baltimore, I definitely have a little stronger opinions on.
Yeah, I agree. We can keep this game quick. I think, Will Warren's been pretty solid to start the year. He gets a nice matchup today against the Athletics, who started out the year super strong, not striking out as much, but lately they've just been whiffing, getting called strikes at one of the highest rates in the league. I think over the past week or so, they're probably 1 or 2 in the MLB in a called strike whiff percentage. And we've just seen pitchers dominate them left and right. They're swinging at pretty much everything. Will Warren's a great guy, getting whiffs, getting those called strikes. So I get why he has a 6.5 strikeout line tonight. He should dominate this team, all things considered. Just looking again, I mean, he has and these are some interesting splits that I like to look at. Last 5 or so games, he has a 36% K percentage against right-handed hitting. And that's where the Athletics are going to stack tonight. His reverse splits against left-handed hitting are not as pretty, just a 17% K percentage over those last 5 games. So kind of interesting to see that the Athletics are going to put a good amount of righties in the lineup. I think that gives him a nice boost in the K potential tonight. So I like his 6.5 Ks in this matchup. I think he deals against this team and could probably go way above 7. He could probably go up to 9 or so if I had to guess.
So Props.cash, of course, stacked with the alternate lines as well. So you don't even have to go to your sports books. They give you the line shopping for the alternate odds as well. Best price on 6.5 minus 123, 7.5 plus 155, and like you mentioned there, that potential for 9+ Ks, 9+ Ks over 8.5, plus 310. He's done it 3 times this year against the swing happy LAA, which, as we saw here, 7 strikeouts swinging against the Angels, also 4 looking. He was absolutely dicing them up in that one. In that game against Texas, I want to see 5 swinging Ks. And in this matchup against Seattle, another 5 strikeout swinging game. And then against Texas, he had 5 looking, 4 looking against Seattle. And those are much more disciplined lineups than this Oakland Athletics lineup can be. So Will Warren, definitely worth a look there. And I do want to quickly look at Mitch Spence, just at his odds. We're seeing plus 112 at Bet Rivers being the best price for 4.5 Ks. Now, the Yankees, generally speaking, are one of the better teams at avoiding strikeouts. But this year, obviously, Gio's sample size is so small, but like Jazz has been striking out a lot. Even Judge, as great as he is, he can struggle with some strikeouts as well. And against right-handed pitching, the numbers are pretty ugly. I faded our boy yesterday, Kyle Brady Singer, or on Wednesday. We were talking
Yeah.
about it last week. I got in on the fade at plus 130. He flew over that line against the Yankees. And Mitch Spence is another guy for me in that category that like I normally love to fade at 4.5. He's of course come in for a couple of relief appearances, as you can see his massive number of games played. But he's gotten back to his starting roots, which he was last year, and I don't think that getting 5 strikeouts, especially at plus money, is a bad look. Let's see what prop.cash is only projecting 4.15, so they're showing some value on the under. But like we see here, props.cash historicals, right-handed pitching Brady Singer had 9 Ks, diced them. I was on the under at 4.5 there. So this alt line cashing. Lodolo a lefty, but even Dean Kremer, not a massive strikeout pitcher. He diced up the Yankees. Eflin, not a big one. They did pretty well. Sugano, not a big strikeout pitcher. He still went over. Lefty. Then you have like Kyle Hendricks as well as I'm not even going to try to pronounce John's last name here for the Angels, but long story short, low strikeout guys have been flying over their number, and seeing that Spence is still sitting at plus money at BetRivers plus 112, and then if you devig that to FanDuel at plus 102, or even MGM at even odds, that is looking like a worthwhile play for me. I'm very interested in Spence. I normally love to fade bad pitchers on their Ks, especially against generally disciplined lineups, but this is a case where the Yankees are not putting the bat to the ball. Spence could get hit around, of course, but as long as he's keeping his walks down, which he does a great job of, I think he'll be they're going to try to get as many outs as possible. Only 15 in these couple of starts. Here he got shelled against Toronto. Only 14 against Cleveland, who got to him as well. 7 hard hit balls. But if they can keep the Yankees down, like teams have been doing really well over the last couple of months, I think a lot of these outs can be coming via the strikeout for Spence. So I kind of like that 4.5 over for Mitch Spence.
Yeah, I don't hate it. I mean, it's scary because you look at the matchup on paper. It's the Yankees. I think he's already faced them once this year, but I don't think he saw the full workload.
Yeah, just 2 innings there.
Yeah. Yep.
4 Ks in those 2 innings, or whatever that's worth.
Yeah, I'm almost kind of looking. I'm wondering if it got bumped. His hits allowed props, because I think he gave up like 4 hits in that matchup. Yeah. In just the 2 innings, and now you're sitting with a 4.5 hits allowed line, where he's probably going to see much more of a heavy workload. That's to me, if the Yankees can make some contact against him today like they did last time out, I mean, that feels like a ton of value there, especially because you're going to see more than double the workload most likely, and he's already given up 4 hits in, what is that? Yeah, 2 innings. So makes sense to me. I think that's an easy bet.
Pretty crazy stat line there. 2 innings pitched, 4 Ks, 1 walk, 4 hits, 3 earned, 1 dinger, 4 hard hit balls. So they were either literally slacking everything he pushed there, or they were whiffing on everything. So definitely hoping for Mitch Spence's sake he goes more than 6 outs in this one. I think it's very possible, and I kind of do like that over strikeouts at plus 112 at Rivers. So let's keep rocking here. Tampa Bay, Baltimore. Of course, we know Tampa Bay is on an absolute heater. Ryan Pepio dealt against the Orioles on 6/16. That was not his last start. That was 2 starts ago. Yep, 2 starts ago. In Tampa, 11 Ks, 8 innings, 4 hits. All 4, I don't know if the hits were technically the hard hit balls, but only 4 hard hit balls in that appearance. Now, Pepio is a guy who has been pitching really well this year, but he does have some like lower strikeout games. Against Tor here, though, only 5 Ks and 7, but a very well-pitched game as they shut them out. Houston, only 4 Ks, but we know that they're a tough team to strike out. And then you see there that he still pitched 6.2, only allowing no earned runs in L. Houston, again, that was the second time seeing him in succession, pitched better the second time than the first time. I'm a huge Pepio fan. I think, though, this is definitely a spot for an under strikeouts. Like, I know he diced up the O's, and the O's are like really a tough team to like have, like we talked about the other week, Kyle. Like, you want to give them the benefit of the doubt because they have been hitting some balls hard. They have been playing some like, they have been getting some unlucky in certain instances, but like, there's a bad baseball team.
Yeah. I mean, they've been terrible, and man, I wish I took him in that last game against Baltimore because I had him eyed up. I think his line was 5.5, and it was like, I think plus money at the time too. And I didn't end up going for it, and of course he finished with 11 Ks. So seeing it today, I'm like, man, it's a good matchup again for him. I don't think he's been as solid on the road as he's been at home. But you're coming into this game if you're Pepio in the same situation as last time, other than the home or away. The Orioles are going to stack lefties like they do all year. It's just
Mhm.
how their lineup is built. And Pepio just dominates left-handed hitting. Let's see, they got at least 4 in the lineup, so it looks like things might have changed. I looked this morning; it looked like they were going to have 6. So
Well,
unless
definitely
something wild,
I don't think any of these lineups are confirmed just yet. It's a little too
yeah.
early.
I was looking at projected lineups on RotoWire this morning, and it looked like they probably go with 6. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Yeah, still showing 6 for expected. Which would be surprising. I wouldn't be surprised if they knock it down to a lineup like this where they're throwing out 4, just because Pepio is just crushing left-handed hitting. Uh, like I've been mentioning, last 5 games, he's got like a 42% strikeout rate against left-handed hitting. Obviously, a bulk of that came from this matchup, whatever it was, 2 starts ago, where he finished with 11 Ks. But still, to be striking out nearly half of the left-handed hitters you face is pretty wild. And you're getting a Baltimore team that's just been on the decline for weeks and weeks and weeks. 6.5 at plus money. I mean, he's been solid, hitting it in 4 straight games. It feels like a spot where you might have to sprinkle on it or throw it in some kind of crazy parlay just because he's been so solid. We just saw Shane Baz get 9 Ks against them, whatever that
Mhm.
was yesterday or the day before. So obviously, it's a spot I think you got to target and at least take a look at. You're seeing, yeah, Patrick Corbin, who's not a strikeout pitcher whatsoever, got 6. Obviously, he's a lefty. Um, but to me, it's just like if you're going to give me Pepio at 6.5 against a team he just diced for 11,
Mhm.
I might have to sprinkle on it. I get this is his second time facing him in like a couple weeks. They're probably going to adjust some things. You're probably thinking they're going to make a little bit more contact just because they're recently familiar. But to me, it just feels like if they're rolling out some lefties again against them, they're just setting themselves up for another hefty day of Ks at the plate. So I'll keep an eye on that one.
Absolutely. And like you mentioned, that's just how the Orioles are built. Bunch of switch hitters in that lineup. Of course, if they're batting against a right-handed pitcher, they're going to be batting lefty. Some other just straight left-handed batters like Gunnar, O'Hearn, Jackson Holiday, Seti. These are everyday players that are not going to be, in the lineup. Of course, if Carlson is a switch hitter, Adley's out, but he's a switch hitter when he plays. And then it's also like, okay, look at the righties. Like you have Kobe Mayo, who's never done anything. You have the ghost of Gary Sanchez. Ramon Laureano has been one of their best players against right-handed pitching, stopped down in the 8 hole. And then, Jordan Westberg, who's been all right. So the Orioles don't need to keep going in on them a little bit. But let's take a look at some home run odds quickly. We're playing in Camden Yards. I want to take a look at what the projected weather is going to be here. Props.cash, of course, has weather reports. If you're unfamiliar, pull up their page. And for the hitters, you see spray charts. You see BVP spray charts. Holiday only has 1 single there, so that's probably on the ground. Probably not in Camden Yards as well. Looks like a cooler night in Baltimore. So Baltimore might be flying, wind blowing right to left, a little bit in. So that's worth noting. We both have talked about not being BVP guys, especially because this is Pepio only played, half a season with Baltimore last year before he got hurt in that Mets game where he took that comebacker. And then this year made that 1 start against them. But, high strikeout rates. Gunnar has seen him pretty well. Gunnar has a home run off of him. Gary Sanchez got talking crap about. He took him deep one time. Who knows when that was? And again, not relying on this as like gospel or anything like that. But with that being said, I don't know. At this point, like I've told you, Kyle, I have a Rays futures out the wazoo. I was a big Rays fan coming into this year. They continue to prove me right. So at minus 130 on the money line here again, it opened at minus 116 over at Bookmaker. Actually, looking at FanDuel. Let's see what it opened up at Bookmaker. I'm looking at a different tool because props.cash, of course, is props.cash. So we're focused on props. But game line wise at Bookmaker, -117 to -132. Still, of course, a lot of time for, late money to come in and all that. But looking like another expected W for the Rays, who just can't stop winning and can't stop making me look good.
Yeah, I mean they've been on fire, and it's a team that needs to be. You're hearing all the Wander Franco news lately, and they're trying to. Obviously, he's not part of the team anymore, but this is one of those situations where they're like, "Hey, let's ride this wave out. We just got bought out. We might be moving out of Tampa. Who knows what the future holds for us? We don't really have a stadium right now." They're just. I mean, it's good for them to be winning because if they were losing, I mean, this team would be getting so much, I don't know, so much terrible media coverage. So
Absolutely.
it's a hot hand you gotta ride until it dies out, and especially in matchups like this against the Orioles, who are just complete opposite side right now. So yeah, I like your future there on the Rays, man. I think they're gonna give the Yankees a run for their money when it comes down to the fall. I think it's you're seeing the Yankees kind of flip flopped right now. They're hit or miss, and the Rays have just been super hot. So it's going to be a tight divisional race, I think, at the end of the season. So I'm excited.
Yeah.
I think you got a Rays playoff future either way, which will be nice to see.
I Rays playoff, Rays to win the East, Rays to win the AL, and Rays over win total, which was 80.5 at open, and now it's I haven't checked the recently, but they have 45 wins already, so that feels like it's feeling pretty nice. And just another anecdote: this game is in Baltimore, but the Rays starting off the season, they were terrible at home, still getting adjusted to Steinbrenner Field, and that was like making me nervous because preseason I was thinking that it could be the opposite, where like, yes, there is this probably transition period, but they're going to be playing half their games there, so they're going to be more adjusted than some other teams that are coming to see Steinbrenner Field and play in those dimensions. And at first, I looked like I had egg on my face, but that was just a transition period. And now they get hot, and now they beat everybody. So let's go Rays. I'll stop my fandom there for now. We can go out to another game, but I'm all for Tampa Bay to continue keeping it up. But this is another matchup, Kyle. This is interesting. So we have Sonny Gray going against Luis Ortiz. The Guardians are a team that I generally used to like fade the opposing pitcher on their strikeout lines often, but this year it's just not been the case. They have a couple of big strikeout guys at the bottom of their lineup. Of course, you have Juan Ramirez and Santana, who have never been strikeout guys in their entire careers, of course, maintaining that. But you have Sonny Gray, who has, after a pretty great start to the season, still has some good 10K games against Detroit, against the Rangers, which of course is not a great hitting team this year, and I've been seeing some higher strikeouts. Pitched well against LA, though he went under his number. But back-to-back, I don't want to say tough starts, but they always keep Sonny Gray's leash pretty short. Then you have Luis Ortiz going, who has found kind of a renaissance in Cleveland. He was on the Pirates. The Guardians are one of the better organizations in past years, and continuing developing pitching talent. The Cardinals not a massive strikeout team, but overall, Kyle, I'm curious your thoughts. Do you have anything here from a hitter or pitcher perspective? Because I think this is a sneaky good matchup of two just very mid teams.
Yeah, no, I agree. And you're getting two pitchers, like you said, that've been pretty solid, at least this year. I mean, Sonny Gray has been up and down. Ortiz has just been as solid as you could ask for the Guardians. I mean, you look at his strike
last year. He heated up toward the end of last year, but Ortiz, man, he was never a good pitcher in Pittsburgh.
No.
I loved him in Pittsburgh.
And I got to give him credit because he's been a strikeout demon. Just seeing him go over that line, and what is that, 5 straight games, 7 out of his last 8. Definitely a tougher matchup today against the Cardinals, who don't strike out as often. Most guys are going under their lines against them lately. So I get why you're getting 4.5. I think the books are trying to they're giving you the hit rate prop straight up. Hoping, I think some people will bite on that just because he's done it in 5 straight games. He's got to do it again. But we'll see. I mean, he's been up there in called strike whiff percentage, which has been great for him to see. He does get hit around quite a bit from what I know. So this could be one of those spots where maybe the Cardinals get to him, maybe they don't. Um, it's tough. And then Sonny Gray on the flip side, I mean, I think from a betting perspective, he's done a lot of people pretty dirty this year, me included. He got pulled in that one game, I think probably his last start. I think it was kind of like a little premature. I think he got pulled after 5, even though he'd only given up an earned run, was at 70 something pitches. But I think it was just a strategic play from the Cardinals, probably based on who was coming up to bat next, what they're seeing out of him, maybe some kind of lingering issue or something with his age. They felt like they could pull him a little early and maybe get out of that game a little bit cleaner. So going to be tough. We'll see. I mean, Sonny Gray, like I said, pulled early last game. The one game I took him for is pitching. I think I took him for his strikeouts. Had so many 2-strike counts, had 5 Ks, needed him for 6, and he just came in. I think it was probably that 5th or 6th inning and just got blown up and didn't get his 6K. So I think that's kind of what you're seeing here. You're seeing these trends start to kind of come to life, especially in the dog days of summer for MLB. Teams are aware of it. If a guy is going to go through the order 3 times, maybe when he reaches that point for the 3rd time through the order, he's not going to have as much success. You start seeing velocity go down. You start seeing him give up some measly hits. These are things you got to kind of pay attention to, especially in other matchups where maybe a team starts off a little bit slower at the plate, but as the game kind of goes on, you'll see them kind of pick it up 3rd time through the order, or maybe by the 6th inning, all of a sudden those bats are awake, especially if they're at home or if they're on the road. These are things when it comes to baseball, it's very like analytical and statistical, and teams obviously have like whole teams built around this. You think of like the Cardinals and Guardians stats teams that probably do all this research behind the scenes, and they're like probably telling their managers like, hey, like you're seeing a pretty good chance that Sonny Gray is going to get hit up in this 6th inning, just based on some advanced metrics we're seeing. So you might want to, go out there on the mound and pull him out of this game. And that's probably what you're seeing a lot of lately. And I think it's just driving bettors up a wall because it's very hard to gauge those things unless you have all these advanced metrics tools. Luckily, props.cash gives you a lot of it. But I think the time and effort you need to really understand how a pitcher is going to perform or when he's going to get pulled or not goes a lot more than just into hit rate numbers and things like that. You really got to look deep into it.
Very well said.
But yeah, that's a long spiel for me because I know Sonny Gray, the last time he pitched, I saw it all over my X feed. People were like, what the hell, man? This guy got pulled. Like, it makes no sense. Betting on baseball is impossible. And I just think, yeah, like I probably would have taken it too, but I think there's things that you're not quite seeing behind the scenes that are reasons why he's getting pulled. I don't think people are like, oh, the manager had the under or someone in the organization had the under. It's like, no, I don't think it's that. I think it's more like metric wise. There's probably some reason they pulled him that we just don't know the full story about. And you might not ever know it unless you have the time to really dig into why that might happen.
Absolutely. And then like props like you mentioned has some great like nuggets. We were talking about it earlier, like the hard hit balls. If you're seeing in like a short amount of time, 5 innings, you've let up already 4 hard hit balls, 1 pure barrel. You're throwing 16 almost pitches per inning. That's going to rank up. And then again, like you have a veteran like Sonny Gray, so you can make the argument like, okay, he's a seasoned vet. He should stay out there. But then on the same other side of the same coin is, no, he's a veteran. Maybe he doesn't have his best stuff. He's going to be, talking to coaches, looking at evaluating what's been going on in the game, who's available in the bullpen behind him, how the hitters were approaching him in those first couple of at-bats that they had against him, going on that 3rd time through the order, which is generally speaking the hardest time for starting pitching, which is why we're seeing this trend of pitchers. Of course, it has so much to do with like spin rates, strikeouts, walks being up, etc., as in to correlate with the higher pitch counts and pitchers having shorter leashes. But it's also the fact that when you see a pitcher for the 3rd time in the same game, after you've already seen their game plan for you 2 times, because another thing that I don't think a lot of casual baseball fans and gamblers consider, and this is not like a shot at you, this is just spitting some game for hopefully you guys get some understanding. Every single at bat, especially the first time through an order, even though it might not seem like it, and pitchers could make mistakes, they have game plans for these hitters. Like they know, for example, said hitter is bad at swinging at curveballs and likes to get set up with the high fastball, then struggles with the the low curveball after you set up with the high fastball. If they can execute that in the first time through the order, the second time through the order, they might have a similar game plan. That third time through the order, the hitter knows what the game plan is. They're sitting in there looking at that iPad that we see, and they're saying, this is how they attacked me. This is how they got me out. Maybe they're out of their bag of tricks. Now the hitter has a better approach. So these are all like little intricacies of baseball that make me love the sport more than anything, that I feel like people aren't considering. And then you can say to me, Eric, okay, that's cool. How do I do anything with this information? And I'm trying to say to you, that's what makes gambling so difficult is there's all these other confounding factors that are part of this situation. But I really loved your breakdown and kind of your holistic approach to things. I personally want nothing to do with Sonny Gray. But Ramirez is out because I know he got plunked. They saw the X-rays came back negative, but maybe they'd sit him for a game. That low strikeout rate is going to be out of the lineup, so that's something to consider if they replace him with a higher K guy because this team has been striking out more. Then on the Ortiz side, like you're saying, like speaking about not a ton of or just this amazing like the hit rates there. It's like a hit rate prop, as you would say. Like you would look at this like how the hell are they hanging minus 140 for 4.5? He had 10 last game and has covered this number. Cardinals are a patient order, like I mentioned. I was expecting some more BVP because he was in Pittsburgh last year. So I was maybe seeing if there was, because they were, divisional rivals, but nothing there. And then while you were speaking, Kyle, I was also taking a look that the wind looks like it's blowing out in St. Louis and also looks like a very nice, beautiful night for some baseball. 84 degrees around first pitch, 85 all night long. So that could also be factored into the pitcher props as well, because this total is 8.5 juice to the over. We're seeing lower strikeout prop numbers than expected. All of these things are pieces of the puzzle that are, worth considering and need to be thought about, especially when it's June 27th and all you got to bet on is maybe a couple WNBA games, some tennis, and Major League Baseball.
Exactly. Yeah, it's the dog days of summer, man. You really got to pick your spots carefully when it comes just to baseball in general. I was going to say pitchers, but I think baseball in general, especially when it's the dog days of summer, it's hot outside, wind's blowing out. You really got to dig into some of these props and think about how it might go down, what this team situations are. Because in the grand scheme of things, like we're approaching the All-Star break too. Some games are really starting to matter more than others. Like I was talking about that Mets series where they just played the Braves twice and the Phillies in the stretch of 2 weeks. Those are huge series when it comes down to playoff time at the end of the year, especially when you're going into All-Star break. Because you're seeing those teams a few times a year, but at the end of the year, we saw it play out last year where the Mets and Braves were basically tied end of the year, and it came down to like who's going to get that wild card spot, who's not, who's going to get home field advantage, things like that. And it comes down to important games during the regular season. So you really got to think about what are these matchups that matter most, and how are these teams going to act accordingly in those games? And you'll see it in the schedule. They try to set their aces up for these, big divisional games coming up.
Mm-hmm.
You kind of see the schedule get worked out. Obviously, some guys are being considered for trade. So you got to keep those things in mind too. Are they going to, relinquish his leash a little bit because they don't want to risk injury before they trade him? They want to get the most value. Things to consider, especially this time of year where we're getting into murky waters a little bit. There's a lot to balance and juggle, more than just stats and whatnot. You really got to think about overall game plan, where our team is sitting in the standings and things like that. What games are going to matter to them at the end of the year that maybe they fall short on or they capitalize on during the dog days of summer.
And the last thing I would add to that too, which is just like a conclusion to all those things, is you also need to consider the upcoming schedule, not from the perspective like you were mentioning from who they're playing, but also literally the days they're playing. Like, for example, if the Mets had off yesterday, which they didn't, maybe they would have given their pitcher 2 games before that more leash, or they give him less leash because they knew that their bullpen was going to have a rest day. So if you see that a team has just like one series and they have an off day, you can anticipate probably those pitchers. And these are times where they could be priced in, but if you get to them early enough, you can catch them before they're priced in. That even if it is like a Sonny Gray going, and like maybe in that was the context in that game. I don't have I didn't look into it that much to make a great example, but the point is, like, if a team has a 3-game series, then an off day before their next series, you're going to likely see more bullpen action, even if the pitcher is a seasoned veteran, or if they're even struggling just a little bit, because they know that they're going to have that rest. If those are situations, they'll pile back on what you were saying there, Kyle, which is great. I absolutely agree. And another layer to that is schedule from literally a days of games played schedule added on to who they're playing. You know, the Yankees against the A's, they had off yesterday. The before that, if they have to go to their pen, they're going to go to their pen more frequently. If you have somebody like, you know, say today we're looking at Minnesota, Detroit, say David Festa goes 8 innings today and saves their bullpen. Like, that's going to be something that then moving forward, you get to consider that their next starter who goes, maybe their leash isn't looking great, especially if you add in the stats that we see from Prop.Cash and you add in some of the other factors. That's when you can really tell that that's the game within the game. You have the numbers, then you have the context of the entirety of what is going on. And then, of course, you have the odds, you have the projections, and that's why we do what we do, Kyle. This is what makes it so much fun, right?
It's why baseball it's so fun to bet on, and it's like so difficult and frustrating at the same time because there's so much that goes into it. You think about NFL season where teams are having basically like a week, 5 days to a week off between games. You're not really considering things like this as much. So when it comes down to baseball, it's really like a day by day game. Like, what are the metrics I really need to look at? What's their schedule coming up? Like you said, how long is a guy going in the game before? Are they having a day off? Are they on a stretch where they're playing their 11th game in a row? These are things to keep in mind, and teams obviously have these things in mind too. And I mentioned it like with the Mets, they have like you can go to your bullpen, but you might have guys in your bullpen that can go confidently 3 or 4 innings, and that's a huge plus for some teams that basically getting, a starter to come out from the bullpen and finish off a game for you. So those are things to keep in mind too. So maybe someone like a Sonny Gray goes 5 innings, but they bring out, and I'm just making this up, but maybe they bring out someone from the bullpen who's able to give them 3 or 4 more innings. That saves even more bullpen arms. So you got to consider that going forward too.
Mm-hmm.
It just makes baseball, man, so frustratingly difficult, and that's why I'm still looking at this slate today, especially when there's so many games on a Friday, and you're just staring at all the numbers and data, and it's almost like overwhelming of like, how are these games going to play out? Like I just it's so hard to absorb all the information and make some kind of sound bet with it. And the books, I mean, I think the books are happy about that right now. It's summertime.
Absolutely.
We got baseball, and people are just throwing money at home run bets and crazy strikeout parlays, and the books are probably clapping it up like this is the best time of year for us. So
yeah, and I'll finalize this little 2-man ballad we had going on here, which I love. I hope you guys are picking up on some of the stuff we're putting down. Of course, we want to give you some more actionable bets, but we want to give you some information as well. It's not a bad idea. I would even go as far as say it's probably a good idea for a lot of bettors. You look at baseball every day, 15-game slates most of the time. You want to get in. You want to, analyze the whole board. Focus on a division. Pick 5 teams you like. Just like that, you have 10. That's a third of the league. And then you're able to very much more easily understand the context of these teams' schedules, these teams' upcoming games, these teams' bullpen usage. So instead of, opening up Props.Cash and a couple other tools and you're, just sorting for hit rate, instead, you already have an actionable plan before you even open props and start your work, because you already have an understanding of how these teams are operating. It makes it much more digestible, and it also helps you with not making like rash gut decisions, because when you have all the context and you have the data with Props.Cash, and then you are focused in on only who you're focused in on, it's easier to pass on things because you'll be like, okay, like this line, a lot of times they might seem like suspect, and for whatever reason, like you're like, why is this low? I want to hammer it, but like now you have this context to it where you can like look at yourself and be like, no, well, based on X, Y, and Z, it actually makes sense, and I'm passing, and this line is actually fair. So I'm glad that we just had that conversation. I hope you guys picked up some great stuff, chat. Shout out to Kyle for starting that, and I'm glad that we were able to give you guys some just general game. But let's keep rolling here, Kyle. I was looking at Minnesota, Detroit while you were talking, and I see some very, very hot conditions in Detroit tonight. Some wind blowing right to left, but looking like it's blowing a little bit out. You have a guy like right now, Byron Buxton. This wind looks beautiful for his spray chart. Amazing future prospect cash, of course. A guy who drives the baseball, wind blowing in that direction. Shorter porch out in Comerica for where he hits most of his tanks. No BVP here, which again is just worth like noting, but down to his lowest plus 335 for Byron Buxton against Gibson Long. Just wanted to point that out, because I know you do like to focus on pitchers for starters. Is this a game you looked at between Festa and Gibson Long, or are you not as feeling so strongly about this one?
No, I mean, I'm just learning now that David Festa is starting today, because I think for the longest time, and when I even looked this morning, it still was telling me pitcher undecided, I think, for Minnesota. I kind of had some assumptions it'd probably be David Festa, because he's kind of like their plug-in guy right now. They called him back up. But man, I think he got eaten alive last game he started. He had he got someone start for him, and then he came out. Yeah, gave up 12 hits against the Brewers, 8 earned runs. Tigers are very similar team, and you're showing like the weather like that, hot, wind almost blowing out a little bit. That I'm like, I think the Tigers might have a big day at the plate today. They had one yesterday, similar situation. So this could be a game where I think Tigers money line probably has some decent value, if it's even, I haven't even seen the odds, but
it's -1. Best odds on the like recreational books, -125 at MGM. If you are a exchange user, if you're not, absolutely sign up. No vig right now, -115, best price in all of the market. And that exchange, no vig, is operational, I think, 40 plus states. So if you're looking for Tigers money line, check out no vig, -115, best odds on the market.
Yeah. I don't hate that at all. Just based on how Festa, I mean, he'll go for the strikeout every time. That's kind of his game. Tigers obviously can strike out a ton. They have all year. But this is one of those matchups where they're probably drooling just thinking about how they're going to mash up David Festa today based on his last game. So I would confidently play Tigers money line tonight if you guys have good value on it.
Absolutely. Total is 8.5, juice to the over at -120 at most places. So definitely it looks like the books are expecting some runs. Festa is interesting to me. I'm not going to spend too much time because we have some games we want to go through as well. But he was so highly touted. Like, he's somebody I like stashed in fantasy for a little bit. Like had him, unfortunately, with some of these games where he got shelled. He's a guy that he does, again, have some good games under his belt against the White Sox, Rangers, and Reds. Just actually isn't really that good a game at all. He had only 3.2, 2 earned. I don't know if why he had such a short leash there. Maybe that was in relief or in like an opener situation, or he was like the second act to an opener. But Festa's a guy still. He's 6'6". He does have some good stuff, as we can see with some of these, again, spin rate metrics. He had a terrible spin rate. He couldn't spin the fastball for his life against the Brewers, the Reds as well. But some of his good games, you see the spin on the fastball have been there, and the velo sitting around 95. But he's been dipping. Never want to see a young pitcher dipping in their velocity. But I'm with you on the Tigers being a good look today, and I hope Festa, for as just a baseball fan's sake, becomes this great prospect that he was touted to be. But time will tell. We can keep on moving though to a game that I think could be a lot more fun though. Toronto Blue Jays, Boston Red Sox, total 8.5. The Boston Red Sox are a slight -115 favorite at MGM, -113 at Novig. Best in market again. So if you're not on Novig, I definitely recommend. But you got Berrios, Bayo in Fenway. First things first in a matchup with these guys is I definitely got to take a look at some of this wind and what we're looking at. We know the Blue Jays can hit. I would say, in my opinion, surprisingly, I was very low on Toronto, but their offense has been solid. Boston has been a Jekyll and Hyde team. They're either hitting 10 dingers a game or they're striking out 12 times a game. Berrios, of course, I'm assuming there'll be some good BVP, and we'll find out shortly on both ways with Bayo being a frequent, these are AL East guys. These has been in the AL East for a long time. Vladdy, 2 dingers off Bayo, a 417 ISO, a 444 batting average on balls in play, 445 for a dinger. We know Vladdy has not been hitting tanks, only 11, but it doesn't mean he's not been having a good season. He's having a great season. He hits the ball really hard. 625 at MGM. What's the wind telling me? Colder night in Fenway, so ball's not flying. Vladdy doesn't hit to that short porch. He's a pull hitter. Of course, you got the monster here. I'm going to go. I don't care how many times he burns me, Kyle. 625 is egregious for me for Vladdy in this matchup.
The only reason it scares me, he got hurt last night. He took, I think his X-rays came back negative. Okay. And so if he's in the lineup today, I think that's why you're seeing some of those odds up there. But I don't know how bad it is. I didn't even see the injury.
Right forearm confusion I'm seeing.
Yeah, so he might not even be in that lineup today. If he is, maybe he comes out with a vengeance against Bayo here, because we know how that could go.
Absolutely.
But yeah, I mean, that's the only part that scares me off. I was eyeing him this morning too, and then I saw the thing about his injury, and I was like, oof, maybe that's why the odds are up there for him.
And worth noting, talk about this, I think, on every show, but for any new viewers, always want to mention it. Certain books void if they're not in the starting lineup, and certain books do not void. So FanDuel, if you bet it, which at this point you should absolutely not even be considering betting it at FanDuel because their odds are worse at 560. So if you bet it now, Vladdy's not in the lineup, but he pinch hits at any point, your ticket is live. So you're hoping for 1 home run in that pinch hit at bat. But over at MGM, I'm almost positive that it voids pregame. I know it does at DK, which isn't even listed. And DK not even listing it might be, like you mentioned there, Kyle, some proof that they're not going to that he might not start with that injury. But the 625 at MGM still, I think, is good value, even with that arm contusion, because if he's playing, it's because he's healthy. And if he sits, it's a push. You just get your money back. So no harm, no foul there. I want to look at Berrios really quickly and see the BVP on the other side. Sorry, 1 second, fam. Berrios on the other side, BVP, just out of curiosity, not a ton, because the Red Sox are running a lot of young guys. Of course, Marcelo Meyer, Roman Anthony are the rooks. They haven't seen him. Duran has had his number, and I know Berrios struggles against lefties. Any final thoughts here, Kyle? You want to move on to a final game here?
No, I mean, this will be a fun game. Red Sox, Blue Jays is always an entertaining one. And I'm going to be surprised. I don't think I'm going to take anything on either of these pitchers tonight, because you're seeing Berrios, who could easily go for 8 or 9 Ks against this Red Sox team based on the form they're in right now. Absolutely. You're seeing Bayo, who has actually been pretty solid for the Red Sox as of late. He's been going deep into games, been more solid than he has to start out the year. And I think the Blue Jays, the last few games, they've been a super tough strikeout team, but the last few games I kind of think they've ticked up a little bit. So this could be one of those games where you're seeing maybe it's going to be tough. I don't know. You either see runs flying or you're going to see a low scoring affair based on how these pitchers come out and perform. Yeah, he's been super solid the last 2 games. I mean, struck out 8 against the Yankees and then 6. I don't know who that last matchup was against.
San Francisco in the Bay.
So he's been solid for them, and we'll see if he keeps it up. It's a tough team, tough matchup, who could definitely hit him well. But, yeah, I don't know. These lines are tight, and I think this game could go either way. Runs flying, or both teams are going to be whiffing quite a ton.
So Bayo's a guy like in the Brady Singer category that we talk about, Kyle, that I love to fade.
Yep.
I faded him against the Yankees, of course. Did not look great. If this was like you talked about with like 4.5 minus 240. I'm not laying the 240 there. I want to see what props is projecting. They were projecting 3.5 or 4.5 over the line. So they're definitely expecting an over here at minus 120. Best odds at Fanatics, but I would stay away. If it's just 4.5, especially at plus money, I would have hopped all over it. But like you mentioned, Toronto is such a tough team to strike out, even if they have been, I guess coming down from, everything in baseball, what goes up must come down, whether it be you're slumping, you're going to eventually hit, you're hitting, you're going to eventually slump. 3.5 is like way too low though for me. I'm again like a love to fade a Brian Bayo kind of guy, but not in this one. We have a bunch of more games to go through, but Kyle is on the move, so he's going to hop off. But I'm going to stay on and go through a couple more games. Kyle, appreciate you. Any parting words for the boys in chat?
No, I mean, happy Friday, everyone. Let's cash some bets today, and make sure you get on props.cash. All the data is right here. Everything we've blabbed about today, you can go right on props.cash and figure it all out. And this is always where I start my research for MLB every day. I think if you're not on here, you're missing a big edge in your betting game. So definitely recommend it. Get on here. Let's make some money this Friday, and let's have a big weekend.
Let's do it. I really appreciate you, Kyle. Shout out to Kyle for hopping on. Shout out to props.cash. I'm staying, but Kyle, I appreciate you, brother. Thank you.
Good seeing you, man.
All right, boys. We have a bunch more games to go through, so we're going to get through that. Making a quick note right here. 1 second. Okay, let's keep rocking, family. Let's keep rocking. San Diego, Cincinnati, Nick Martinez, Dylan Cease. Now, this is a classic Dylan Cease game, I'm thinking, for strikeouts, man. It's minus 137. I'm Prize Picks. This is a good leg to pair with Mitch Spence earlier we were talking about with the expected value, even though it's not showing to Penny, which is what props.cash is to use. I mean, there is some very slight, but using FanDuel, which I like to do on strikeout props, there is definitely expected value on Prize Picks. So this could be a great PP square. The Reds, now they're not a massive K team. As you can see, they have some guys like Stevenson, Matt McLean, who was the guy who was one of my guys coming into this year, but man, he's been so bad. They're higher strikeout rate guys. Ellie, of course, he's got that big walk rate, which is nice, but he's a strikeout guy. Really pounds the zone, but Cease struggles against left-handed batters. We have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 going for the Reds, which makes sense. And in Cincinnati, it's interesting. I want to see what the odds are here. The Padres are minus 130 at FanDuel, best price in market, again, at Novig. Minus 122 shots, Novig. If you guys are not on Novig, I highly recommend. Total at 9. So expecting some runs here in Great American Small Park. And Nick Martinez can be food, absolute food. He does get hit harder in day games. I'm not mistaken, though this is a night game, so not really relevant. Pitch well against the Yankees at night, though the Yankees offense is not something to be, recently, of course, is not a offense to write home about, while the Padres themselves aren't either, to be fair. Though they're getting a little bit more production overall over the last 15 games. Nando's kind of getting a little bit out of his slump. Luis Arrazo is going to make contact. Jackson Merrill is hopefully getting healthy. Xander's heating up, which is always nice. And then the bottom of the lineup is a little bit weak for San Diego. I want to go look at some home run odds just for, of course, the wind reports, as well as to maybe find some good expected value. Like Machado is plus 230. That is a joke. Plus 270 for Nando. Best price is 275 Fanatics. Let me see this. Not a lot of wind at Small Park, but a lot of humidity. It's looking like high temperatures, so the ball ideally could be flying. This is, again, they call it Great American Small Park for a reason. It's a very hitter-friendly park, and we're seeing it reflected in the odds. It's something I think I talked about with either Jake on Wednesday or maybe with Kyle last week, but something that you have to always consider when betting on the MLB is, of course, we talked about weather, wind, ballparks, etc. But when it comes down to pricing these things, I know that this is a great spot for Nando to go deep against somebody like Nick Martinez. I know that he doesn't have a home run off him, but he has a lot of high hard hit balls on a slider. He had a ground out there, 109 mile per hour single, 94 mile per hour out. So he's definitely seeing the ball well from him. But plus 275, man, that's so bad. In the first game of series, you can almost, I want to say like certainly, but like there's a lot of opportunity to find more edges because like we talked about earlier on in the show, like you have teams playing each other for the first time. If it's not that season, but the first time, for a new series, it kind of changes the dynamic a lot. And there's a lot of time where you can find a lot of value, especially if you're in like a Sacramento, which we talked about being a smaller field, Steinbrenner Field. Obviously, everybody knows that small park is like small park, but we're not getting that discount here. Merrill at 280, Nando at 270, Machado at 230. Sandy at 505 though, 625 at MGM. That's a good price. We know he's been heating up a little bit. Of course, the power is out for Bogarts, but as you can see, most of his home runs allowed from Martinez is coming against right-handed pitch batters. Have a much higher isolated power here. So the ISO stat stands for. Against righties, got Nando with the most dingers, Machado with 5, Gavin Sheets with 11. What Sheets? He's 425. He is a lefty he's a righty, excuse me. No, he's a lefty. I knew he was a lefty. 0 for 2 against him with a walk, a strikeout in those 2 plate appearances. Sheets pulls the ball, wind blowing left to right, but not very right to left, excuse me, but not a ton, so not really concerning. Penny hit the best price at 438, FanDuel at 420. So from an expected value perspective, maybe not a ton, but even like Martin Maldonado, bro, 570. This man was like 12-1 less than a week ago. Obviously, new conditions. He hit one last night. He hit a barrel off Trevor Williams, a right-handed pitcher as well. I mean, if it's 560 at FanDuel and it's 600 at BOL and it's 900 at MGM, maybe a Maldi Dom for half a unit or a quarter of a unit here could be interesting. But I mean, I personally am not going to recommend anything if I'm not betting it. Of course, there is some definitely expected value there from just a pricing perspective that's so far off market from sharper prop books like FanDuel and BOL. Nothing from Penny yet. Not always fun sweating those guys, but in Great American Small Park, I mean, I don't have much else to say on this one. I think Cease can have a classic Cease game where he actually pitches well. I mean, a classic Cease game, saying that now, that could be a classic Cease gets shelled out of nowhere game. But no, I think we could see a big strikeout game from Cease, even with the increased lefties for Cincinnati. His fastball still sitting at 97 flat. He's getting some good break on his breaking spin. Some good spin on his breaking stuff, some good spin on his fastball. Didn't get a ton of whiffs against KC in that last start, only 4 Ks. It's interesting, 16.5 pitches an inning. You know that he will go deep in games, even with this one with the Dodgers. Like, not a good start, but 9 Ks, left 6, but they were letting him chuck. Outs prop, he can go deep. He can have those games where if he's not in control, let's look at the walks. Like, those are the coincidences right there. He still pitched 7 against LA with 5 walks. 3 walks and 5 against the Giants. This was the back-to-back with LA. His back-to-back starts, of course, he had a harder time the second time there, which does make sense theoretically. And then KC. I mean, KC is a decent bat-to-ball team, though they don't do anything with those hits. They do at least make some contact. So definitely worth looking at there. But I kind of like Cease's Ks on Prize Picks, definitely. We talked about Spence earlier. We talked about Cease now. Those are like 2 legs to definitely pair together. That could be a great one. And shout out to Props.cash. I'm going to go a little bit quicker through these last ones, unless there's something I love, because there are a bunch of games. Bryce Elder, McAble. We know McAble can have, he had that 9K debut, but then has been not as great since. The Braves are doing better now, of course, with Acuna leading the way. He's been absolutely on fire here. Huge games, like Kyle was talking about earlier. These are huge games for divisions right now. The Braves, of course, start off to that horrible start. I'm going to pull up the standings on my other monitor just so we can have a little conversation about that. But the Braves right now are 37-43. They're 10 games behind the Mets now, who reclaim first place. These are massive games for the Atlanta Braves, especially against divisional foes. I know that we're only on the 27th of June, but these games matter so much. But Bryce Elder, man, let's see some head-to-head, even if it goes to last year. No, nothing against Philly. So no BVP, or some BVP from maybe 2 years ago, because this goes back to 2021. Elder's been there. Alec Bohm has seen him well again. These samples are so small, I'm not buying stock into it. I will go out on a limb and say, though, I am in fantasy baseball. I did pick up Elder for a streamer start. I'm in a must-win matchup. Of course, he can get me like a -20, but I'm hoping he does not do that. I took Elder. I'm taking Elder in fantasy, hoping that these Philly bats that cannot score for their lives continue to score. So that's just something to consider here. Let's just check out some weather. Go back to the dingers. Schwarber 310. That's 370 at Rivers compared to Penny and FanDuel. If you have a Rivers account, I would definitely bat it. I would definitely play this. Wind blowing out. Good hitting conditions in Atlanta. Atlanta also a little bit above sea level as well, so the balls do fly in Atlanta. A little bit more elevation there. So Schwarbomb, it's going to kill my fantasy team, but a Schwarbomb at plus, where we go, 370 EV from Penny and FanDuel and MGM and BOL. I don't know exactly how many states Rivers is in, but I know it's in New York. So if you're a New York bettor, get in on Bet Rivers, man. And I would take that over for Mr. Kyle Schwarber. Let's look at Austin Riley. EV to FanDuel, which I don't love. Verdugo, I wouldn't even touch that man with a 10-foot pole. Matt Olson at 240. I'm sure maybe there could be some EV at some other books because they're taking an aggregate line prop stock cash, but you have to go into, find the best price. Yeah, 250. At Rivers, I'm not betting Olson at 250, even though he's been like hot. Yeah. 11 dongs off of righties this year. Tough matchup for a capping perspective on the props. I could definitely expect a lot of runs. The total is 9.5. It's juiced to the under, but still the 9 is juiced to the over. So expected a higher scoring game, and the weather does kind of back that up, and so does the pitchers who are going. But we know Philly's been struggling. It's very different going against now a easier pitcher to hit than what they were facing, like downtown Hunter Brown, who mowed them yesterday. So maybe this could be like a coming out party for the Phillies offense after a couple of days of complete stagnation. But I'm not willing to, outside of a Schwarbomb, kind of lean into like the, trying to catch a falling knife and hope that this offense finally gets it going today. I'm hoping for a big Elder start. But let's keep rocking. San Francisco White Sox, Landon Roop against Aaron Savali. Roop's been good, man. He's been really good. He's somebody I had in fantasy, but I dropped, which I kind of regret. Here he got shelled against the Dodgers, but a good backup start in Boston, which isn't that impressive. But again, they're going against the White Sox, which of course in San Francisco, in Chicago, Savali's been kind of good. He's always been decent. I mean, they traded for him. This is an interesting one. I think the Giants might smoke him. I'm not gonna lie. Now that I'm thinking about it, the odds are at San Francisco -155. So it's not like have a hot take or anything like that. But I think this might be mispriced. We know that the White Sox have been a lot better this year, but overall, I mean, I don't know that this is a ball club that is really like set to keep doing damage. I think Roop is good. See if they have any BVP against Savali. Nothing noteworthy. I mean, Devers again, 13 PA. Not gonna die on those hills. We'll go back to Roop and see. I doubt there's any BVP here with Roop being a young guy. Yeah, one at bat from Miguel Vargas. Rung him up. Meaningless, but worth noting. We're looking at walks here. He's been 5 walks is never good, especially against LA Div. You could see with the 0 Ks, and he got shelled in that one. But I'm going to keep moving here. I'll take a quick look at, again, home runs just to look at weather to get you guys the weather report. Yaz is 290, so that's telling me there's probably some wind blowing out, and that is exactly the case. Is it a Devers day at plus 190? Sure as hell is not a Devers day. 220 at FanDuel being the best odds and showing expected value to Penny, but I'm personally not going to be falling for betting on a plus 220 dinger. HRR is 2.5, so that's already juiced in total bases is -119. I do not love, honestly. Let's see projections here. So Props.cash is projecting, a tougher day for Devers. It'll be a Jung Ho Lee games TB HRR. Let's keep scrolling here against righties. Lee has not been as great against right-handed pitching. Adames, of course, has been bad all year long. It's everybody. I think this could be a really good San Francisco spot on the money line. They had the day off yesterday to travel. They're, playing. They're in a spot where they need a win. They got swept by the Fish. Well, they played yesterday. No, they played. I know they played the Fish. That was the 26th. Yeah, they played against the Fish yesterday. So they have to fly from San Fran to Chicago, which isn't a terrible travel. But after losing 3 in a row to, the much worse Marlins at home, going on the road, I think this is priced why the price is down to much 55 is a tough spot. But being a believer in the Giants, I have one future on them to be in the playoffs this year that I took like preseason. So they're third in the NL West. They're 7 games above 500. They're obviously not world beaters, but they're definitely a good ball club. So I think this could be a good get right spot for the Giants. So I like SF here. Seattle, Texas. Massive games early. Logan Gilbert, Nate Eovaldi. Eovaldi, let me see some nasty Nate. The 2 kids, I think he left this game early. Yeah, this was May 27th. His first start since the 27th when he got hurt. So a full month of action. Hard to project what he's going to do pitch count wise because he is, of course, coming off that injury. When Gilbert came off his injury, he still came out firing with those 10 Ks against Boston, which we know can be a very high strikeout team, and then a tough outing against the Cubs, but they did win. That was a weather game in Wrigley. I actually had the Mariners in that one, so that was nice cash. Strikeout percentage wise, we know that the Rangers are been abysmal striking out this year. These numbers don't even do it justice because they have these numbers, like they look good on paper, but the Rangers can get rung up. Look against righties like Charlie Morton, of course, not a big K guy, but Keller got over. Burrow's not a K guy. Waka Fluke got over. Lugo got over. That's just the last 10, but I know keep going Savali couldn't get there, but he's not a K guy. These are all non-K guys that they haven't been doing great against. Then you have higher strikeout guys like Pepio, mowed them down. Soroka, not a big K guy, mowed them down. This is all over the course of this month. So I think Gilbert at 6.5 at -128, -25 at Fanatics. FanDuel's -130, so not a ton of EV, but I like Gilbert from a matchup perspective to fly over this number. You can check last year or earlier this year, though it's not going to really impact things, but I do think that Gilbert in Texas is a good matchup. And what's the total on this one? I'm guessing 7.5. Yep, 7.5. It's 7 at most places, actually. I was going to say, I definitely like the under here. We know the Rangers can't hit at times. We know the Mariners can't hit at times. So a game that I don't expect a ton of offense from. We're in the Dome, so weather's not going to be a massive thing. But I look at some prices here, like a big bumper at 250. This is one of the few times, like him and Judge, if they get to higher odds than you normally see, might be worth taking a look at because even if it's a quote-unquote tougher matchup, it's still a big bumper. 16 at bats, again, not a lot. Only 1 dinger off Nasty Nate. He has that name for a reason. You can take a look at Josh Jung just to pull up this chart here, but to see some BVP against Gilbert. Yeah, Gilbert has his way with this order, man. I love Logan Gilbert. I like the under here today. Absolutely. Let's keep rocking, boys. A couple more games. Going to go through all of them. Chicago, Houston. We know Houston has been doing a great job all year of just shutting down pitchers. But we got Walter Horton. Actually, probably going to skip this one. Maybe we'll just look at hitters, but from a pitching perspective, just too much uncertainty. Total is 8 because we know how bad the Houston offense can be. We know the Cubs can be streaky, despite, generally speaking, I do think that they are as good of an offense as they showed earlier this year. I think that's more their true colors. Rather than this up and down offense that they've been recently. I think that the Cubs still do have one of the best offenses in all of baseball. Kyle Tucker, 340. Again, EV to MGM there from Penny. To Rivers from Penny and FanDuel. I actually like that a lot. Kyle Tucker home run could be a day for some of the big dogs. We're looking at Schwarber already, Vladdy, and Tucker. If you're cooking a 3-legger, that could be a nice one. All with EV, though, being a home run parlay. So always some negative EV there. But 6 home runs against lefties. Tucker's always been a reverse splits guy. Hits lefties just as well as righties, if not better. So that's nothing to be concerned with. And the Astros, their pen has been not that taxed because they had some really good starts this past series against Philly. On the Astros side, I mean, it's so hard playing the guessing game of which Astro is going to like hit because none of them hit. Jerry Pena, of course, has been having a great season, but EV to FanDuel don't love it. HRR, I mean, even asking the rest of this lineup to hit is just asking for so much. But yeah, I'm gonna move on here for the LAKC. Strikeouts. Let's go. And again, the chat is open, guys. So if you guys have any questions or games you want me to talk about, I'll gladly pivot to games you guys want to learn a little bit more about. But Noah Cameron, Dustin May, what's his total? 9.5. Okay, I was gonna say we know KC really can struggle to hit the ball. Should be some good hitting conditions in LA tonight. Bobby at 360. But what's that double at? I know last time I had this whole Bobby rant double little rant versus his home run odds. He actually ended up going yard and not hitting a double. But double for Witt is plus 280, so now it is worse odds than home run. So the other time I was mentioning it, it was better odds than home run. Give a whole spiel about why you should bet the double over the home run, and what does he do? First AB, hit a dong. The double 280, I definitely am interested in. Not going to assume there's any BVP at all, which again isn't massive, but there wouldn't be any other way with Cameron. I think it's just a usual suspects day for the Dodgers. There's so many good options on their lineup, as we all know. Don't need to like belabor how good LAD can be. And Noah Cameron is a guy. I'll pull up his numbers quickly, but yeah, he had some really great starts to start his career. You know, this was a no-hit bid. Another really great start. But then coming back down to earth. Like the K's don't not that the last strikeouts have a great start, but then coming back down to earth. But then coming back up with some good strikeout games against Athletics and the struggling Yankees at the time. We did get shelled against the Yankees from the earned run department. And keeping the earned runs down, and the hard hits, but against San Diego, 8 hard hit balls in that one. Hits allowed. He's been walking guys a little bit, 3 walks, 5 walks in that debut. I think Cameron is still like live to get shelled. And now you're playing against the Dodgers. Of course, Dustin May is live to get shelled, but we also have no signs of shelling anybody at all season long, especially lately. Like, look at that, man. Disgusting. Red everywhere. Disgusting. Let's keep rocking. Colorado, Milwaukee, Kyle Freeland, Jose Quintana. I want to look at Quintana's spin rates because I've talked about this many times. We'll reiterate quickly. In cores, if your spinning stuff isn't spinning, that's a recipe for bad news because that means your stuff that starts in the middle of the zone that normally drops out of the zone, it stays in the zone. That leads to a lot of hard hit balls. But this is it's in Milwaukee, so never mind there. But overall, not even great. Like he's been keeping up his spin rates, but these numbers are low. He's not spinning the ball as you'd expect. The Rockies are still hot. They're still hot with the bats. I want to see back to the last 15. We've talked about this, Kyle and I, as well as Jake and I. Brenton Doyle being this bad is really just like not what I was expecting. Injury played a little bit of a role in there, but I was expecting like a really big Doyle breakout year. Of course, it's been the Goodman breakout year. Let's see, odds wise, I'm sure they're massive favorites here. Milwaukee, yeah, they're minus 220. I'm not gonna belabor any points here. You have Freeland, who can be absolute food. Milwaukee does not have great metrics as left-handed pitchers, so they're guys who crush lefties. So like this could be a very simple Churio day. Obviously, Colorado's bullpen, or if you're not a huge baseball guy, their bullpen is horrific. So they have a terrible starter going, and then now a terrible, pitcher coming from the pen. They hit up Skeens pretty decently, but against lefties, Chris Sale diced them a couple. Only the third time they're seeing a lefty this whole month, which is kind of crazy. But Chris Sale diced them. They got the Heaney. So I would not expect the Brewers, who are pretty hot right now, to fold against Kyle Freeland and have like a vintage Freeland game. I don't see that coming at all. So going to keep this one short and sweet. Washington, LAA. Jake Irvin, Jose Soriano. Now, this is one you're going to, the market's at 8.5 over minus 120. So minus 115 on the over. The under at 9 in some books, minus 123. at DK. This game is going to be in my opinion, and this is sorry for like kind of bad analysis here. This game I could see being a 2-0 complete snooze fest or an absolute monster mash fest like San Diego, Washington was in game 1 of that series. I had the over there, and that was sweat free. But I had the same kind of thought where this is either going to fly over or fly under. I'm going to lean to fly over for the fun factors here. Of course, the Nationals can, bro, they're giving me Jimmy Barrels at 5-1. Like, really? All right, I hate to sound like square and like the slips you see on X because I absolutely don't normally bet that way. But if it's positive expected value, there's positive expected value. To me, there's from FanDuel here plus 420. James Wood home run, Vladimir Guerrero Jr. home run, Kyle Tucker home run, Kyle Schwarber home run. I am going to cook up that parlay and bet that and bet them all straight, of course, because that's where I think I'll make some money. I'm not expecting to even like win per se, because that has probably almost as close to 0% chance of winning as possible. But that is a fun home run parlay for tonight. Jimmy Barrels at 5-1. Give me that against Soriano. Soriano can, I'll go to his page really quickly. He can pitch well. We saw a 10K game against Houston, 6 against the Yankees. Let's go to the earned run department. Like, he's a good pitcher. I like Soriano, but when he blows up, he can get blown up. We saw no home runs allowed against Boston, but a lot of hard hit balls and only 3.2 innings of work. He got mashed around there. The Nationals in offense can struggle mightily, I should mention, but the LAA bullpen also not great either. I'm going to lock in that parlay, and it's starting with, again, James Wood. I'll reiterate it one more time at the end of the show, but we have one more game to fly through really quickly. And everybody, if you're wondering what I'm using for my research, it is props.cash. And you can get 30% off your first month with promo code BetSmart. They have MLB, they have WNBA, they have the NFL season already ready to go for some season-long stuff. So, of course, NFL will be more top of mind in the next 2 weeks or so. Once 4th of July hits, of course, we're never, ever deviating from baseball, but we're going to start talking some more NFL. But let's finish off. Yuri Perez and Merrill Kelly. Yuri Perez has been back from injury, has not been pitching so great, but I'm still a massive Yuri Perez believer. He is still showing some really good signs. He's throwing some absolute heat. Let's get to, still sitting 97.2 on the velo, which has been an uptick from every game he started this year from coming back from injury. And we're talking about a child as well. I think I'll confirm exactly how old he is now, but we're talking about a kid. And he goes by Prince Yuri for a reason, because he's 22 years old. And if you didn't remember him last year before he got hurt, the guy pitches dimes and he's a stud. Haven't seen it this year with, a 3 starts, not great, 3 earned against Atlanta, 1 earned, no Ks against the Nats, and in only 3 innings, 5 Ks before earned against Pittsburgh, which is you would think would be a good matchup for Yuri coming in for his first start back. But again, kid's a child and he's coming off an injury as well. So I'm not shocked. But this, of course, is a tough match against Arizona. We know Arizona can get hot with the best of them. It can hit, honestly, hit absolute tanks. But Merrill Kelly on the bump, he's been actually very good this year. He's a guy who I normally like to fade, and he started off the year bumpy. I thought I could finally, talk my talk, but he's been cooking his strikeout line. And this could be another a Kyle special he was talking about earlier, where, it could be at this point where if you're just a hit rate only better, you look at this and you say, bro, he's literally hit in 10 of his last 10 games on the strikeout numbers and 9 of the last 10, all last 5 at 5.5 and flew over. But these aren't great. These are pretty low K numbers for Miami. Kevin Smith, that's pretty high there. This is the I was gonna say, did Kevin Smith get traded? This is showing the D-backs. Let's there we go. There's Miami. Either way though, still good K numbers. And Noah wasn't making that up. You got Stowers who could strike out a good amount, Norby and Dan Myers at the bottom of the lineup, but Jesus Sanchez, 21.4 is low for him. He's a guy who does swing pretty freely. And can get himself into some strikeout situations. But Pull this up quickly. But no, I think that this is could be like a too good to be true spot if he ends up going for a crazy alt number, as we can see here with props.cash, hitting up to 10Ks at 15 to 1. All power to Kelly. He has that kind of potential. I'll have the 11K game against the Rockies at home, 8Ks against Atlanta. Against Colorado again. San Diego, tough team to strike out. Did well. Seattle can be easy to strike out. Washington can be tough, but he's been flying over this number. I would probably fade. And just for the record, boys, that home run prop or home run parlay I mentioned, 70 to 1. Or excuse me, 704 to 1 at BetMGM. So I'm locking that in. That is a James Wood, Vladimir Guerrero Jr., Kyle Schwarber, Kyle Tucker home run parlay. I'm taking them all straight as well at their best prices. I talked about them earlier. It's actually bet stocks at 365. You have access there. But for anyone with only a small amount of books, FD is going to get you the best value there, best bang for your buck. But that's the parlay that I'm locking in. Kyle mentioned Detroit money line earlier. I'll call that a collab with him and I. He liked that. I wanted to back Mitch Spence earlier as well for strikeouts, over 4.5. So that's worth calling out as well. And Kyle had one more that he liked. I think he was on Pepio's over. So that's what we talked about. These are every single game broken down, and I really appreciate everybody who hopped into the chat. If you want to use props.cash for yourself, you get 30% off your first month for MLB and WNBA. Promo code BetSmart. If you have any thoughts, comments, concerns, but anything sports betting related, whether it be education, tools, best ways to get money down, best sports books to use, best alternatives to use, best technology in the industry, go to betsmart.com and betsmart.co, betsmart.co. That is my website, and that is where you can find all information on all things sports betting tools, education, resources, and everything to help you make yourselves a better. If you have any questions at GoBetSmart, you can feel free to DM me at any time, and I'll help you find the right tool for you. And again, if you want to use the best player prop research tool, that is props.cash, promo code BetSmart. Save yourself some money, do some line shopping. I appreciate you guys. I'll see you guys on Sunday with another stream with Pick the Odds. Another fantastic tool, but shout out to props.cash. And I appreciate every one of you. I'll see you guys next time.